The emergency room lights felt like judgment. Dr. Rachel Torres sat in the hard plastic chair, her 7-year-old twins beside her, both doubled over in pain that came from spines that weren't built right, from bodies that fought against themselves every single day. Mia whimpered, her small hand clutching her lower back. Marcus tried to be brave, but tears streaked his face as another muscle spasm twisted his legs at an angle that made Rachel's stomach turn. The nurse at the intake desk had already told her twice. Without insurance, without payment up front, they have to wait. There were 32 people ahead of them. Some had been waiting 6 hours. The twins' wheelchairs sat folded against the wall. Neither child could walk more than a few steps without pain that made them scream. Spina Bifida. The words had changed everything when the ultrasound tech went quiet during Rachel's 20-week pregnancy scan. When the doctor came in with that expression doctors learn in medical school, the one that says your life is about to fracture into before and after. Both babies, both spines, severe cases that would require surgeries, physical therapy, medications, wheelchairs, and interventions that insurance companies found creative ways not to cover. Rachel had been 29 then, a dental hygienist with decent insurance through her job at a practice in Austin, Texas. Married to James Torres, an electrician who promised they'd handle it together, who swore that sick or healthy, these babies were theirs and they'd fight for them. The twins were born at 34 weeks via C-section. Marcus arrived first, 5 pounds 2 ounces, his back showing the telltale signs of the defect, exposed spinal tissue that surgeons closed within 24 hours. Mia followed 3 minutes later, 4 pounds 11 ounces, her case slightly less severe, but still requiring immediate surgery. $347,000 in medical bills before they left the NICU. Insurance covered 60%. The rest became debt that grew faster than Rachel could pay it. James left when the twins were 8 months old, walked out while they were both hospitalized for infections, left a note that said he couldn't handle it, couldn't watch his children suffer, couldn't be the man Rachel needed him to be. She came home from the hospital to an empty apartment. His clothes gone, his truck gone. Child support papers never filed because he disappeared completely, changed his number, moved to God knows where. Rachel lost her job when she had to miss too many days for the twins' medical appointments. Lost the apartment when the rent went unpaid during a month when both children needed emergency surgeries. Lost her car when she couldn't make payments. Her parents had passed away years ago. Her sister Veronica lived in Dallas with her own family, 3 healthy children, and a husband who made it clear he didn't want Rachel's problems contaminating their perfect suburban life. Her brother Miguel was in the Army, stationed overseas, sending what money he could, but it was never enough. For 18 months now, they'd been living in the 2007 Honda Odyssey Miguel had signed over to her before his deployment. A minivan with 212,000 miles on it, a check engine light that stayed permanently lit, and enough space in the back for 2 small mattresses where the twins slept side by side every night. Rachel slept in the driver's seat, her nursing scrubs that she still wore out of habit serving as a blanket. They parked in different places each night. Walmart lots where security didn't chase them away. Hospital parking garages where they blended in. Church parking lots where people were kind enough not to call the police. The twins attended school barely. Rachel managed to keep them enrolled using a mail forwarding service address. Lying about where they lived, terrified someone would call Child Protective Services and take them away because homeless wasn't safe for disabled children. She used the YMCA for showers, the public library for internet to search for jobs that never materialized, food banks for meals as supplemented by whatever she could buy with her remaining food stamps. The twins' medications came from a charity clinic, but their wheelchairs were donated, used, breaking down constantly. Their leg braces needed replacing every 6 months as they grew. Their pain was constant. Mia's cry pulled Rachel back to the present. The emergency room, the waiting. "Mama, it hurts so bad." "I know, baby. I know." Rachel pulled her daughter close, feeling the tremors in Mia's small body. Another spasm, the 4th in an hour. These were getting worse. "Excuse me." Rachel looked up at the triage nurse, a woman in her 50s with exhausted eyes. "You've been here 4 hours. Do you have any way to pay?" Even a credit card for the emergency room visit? I have $17. Rachel's voice was steady despite the shame burning her throat. The nurse's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry. Without insurance or payment, we can't prioritize your case unless it's immediately life-threatening. Spinal spasms in children with spina bifida are considered chronic, not acute. Rachel wanted to scream that chronic meant her children lived in agony every day, that acute was a luxury they'd never had. Instead, she gathered the twins, helped them back into their wheelchairs, and left the emergency room with their pain untreated. They returned to the minivan parked 3 blocks away in a metered spot she'd fed her last quarters into. Rachel lifted each twin carefully, their small bodies so light, so fragile, settled them in the back on the mattresses, gave them each an over-the-counter pain medication that wouldn't touch what they were feeling. Marcus looked at her with eyes too old for 7. Are we going to die, Mama? No, baby. No. You're going to live long, beautiful lives. But do you think we'll ever not hurt? Rachel's throat closed. I don't know, sweetheart. But I'm trying. I promise I'm trying. That night, parked behind a closed grocery store, Rachel allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Then she pulled herself together because falling apart was a luxury she couldn't afford. She checked her phone, the prepaid one she kept active with $10 a month. 2 missed calls from her sister Veronica. A voicemail. Rachel almost deleted it without listening. Veronica only called when she needed something or wanted to lecture Rachel about poor life choices. But something made her press play. Rachel, it's me. Look, I know we're not close, but there's something you need to know. Aunt Sylvia passed away 3 weeks ago. You remember her? Dad's sister who moved to Colorado like 40 years ago? Anyway, she left you something in her will. Some old building she owned. I guess because you're the only one who visited her that one time when you were a kid. Veronica's voice carried skepticism. The lawyer keeps calling me trying to reach you. I gave him your number. It's probably nothing, but you should call them back. Property in Colorado Springs. Lawyer's name is Patricia Finch. Rachel stared at her phone. Aunt Sylvia. She had a vague memory of a tall woman with silver hair who'd sent cards on birthdays, who'd visited once when Rachel was maybe 10 years old, brought gifts, told stories about working as a nurse in Colorado. But that was 25 years ago. They'd exchanged Christmas cards for a while after Rachel's parents died, but eventually that stopped too. She called the number Veronica had texted. Patricia Finch answered on the second ring despite it being 9:30 at night. Miss Torres, I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Yes, I'm sorry. Rachel hesitated. I've been dealing with some things. I understand. Ms. Finch's voice was professional but kind. I'll get right to it. Your aunt, Sylvia Martinez, passed away on October 4th. She left her entire estate to you. Estate. The word felt impossible. Rachel didn't even have a home. The property consists of a medical building in Colorado Springs. It was formerly a spine treatment institute that closed 15 years ago. Your aunt owned the building outright, no mortgage. She left explicit instructions that it be transferred to you for the sum of $1 upon her death. $1. Like it was worthless. What's the catch? There's no catch. The building is yours. However, it requires significant maintenance. It's been empty for 15 years. The city has filed code violations. There's back property taxes totaling $43,000. Rachel's hope deflated. I don't have $43,000. I can barely afford gas. The property taxes were paid last month from your aunt's estate account. There was enough money set aside to cover that and the transfer fees. So the building is free and clear. Free and clear. Rachel's mind raced. A building. Walls. Roof. Space where her children could sleep without being moved along by security guards. Does it have electricity? The service is disconnected, but it can be restored. Water? Also disconnected. It would require approximately $3,000 to restore basic utilities, repair the violations, and make it marginally habitable. Ms. Finch paused. I'm being honest with you, Miss Torres. This building is not in good shape. Your aunt held on to it for sentimental reasons. She trained there as a surgical nurse in the 1970s, but it's been deteriorating for years. Most people would sell it, take whatever they could get. How much is it worth? The land alone is worth about $45,000. The building in its current state, probably another 5 to 10,000 as is. You could sell for around $50 to $55,000, minus realtor fees and closing costs. Maybe walk away with $45,000. Rachel's breath caught. $45,000 was more money than she'd seen in her entire life. Or, Ms. Finch continued, you could try to make it livable and have actual shelter for yourself and your children. I've seen your situation through your forwarding address. I know you're struggling. This would be a chance. What do you think I should do? That's not my place to say, but I can tell you that your aunt was very specific. She wanted you to have this building because, and I'm quoting her well here, Rachel has always fought for what was right even when it cost her everything. She deserves a place to fight from. Rachel felt tears burning her eyes again. When do I need to decide? You should come see it first. I can arrange a walkthrough this weekend if you can make it to Colorado Springs. Where are you now? Austin. Rachel wasn't sure why she told the truth. We're about 13 hours away. We can be there by Saturday. Good. I'll meet you at the property Saturday morning. 10 a.m. The address is 2847 Cascade Boulevard. Miss Finch paused. Miss Torres, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I really hope you come. Your aunt believed in you. Maybe it's time you believed in yourself. That night, Rachel didn't sleep. She sat in the driver's seat with a flashlight, looking up 2847 Cascade Boulevard on her phone's remaining data. Google Street View showed a two-story brick building with boarded windows and a sagging roof. A faded sign barely visible, Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. It looked abandoned. Dangerous. Nothing. But it had 4 walls. And walls were more than they had now. The next morning, Rachel told the twins they were going on a trip. An adventure to Colorado to see a building that might become their new home. Mia's eyes lit up. Like a real house? Maybe, baby. Let's not get too excited yet. Marcus was more cautious. Will it hurt less there? Rachel pulled him close. I don't know, but at least you'll have your own room while we figure it out. She texted her sister Veronica. We're driving to Colorado to see Aunt Sylvia's building. Can you loan us $200 for gas? The response came an hour later. You're seriously considering some condemned building in Colorado? Rachel, be smart. Sell it. Take the money. Get an apartment here in Dallas. Get a job. Get your life together. Rachel stared at the message. Dallas, where Veronica and her husband Carlos had made it clear Rachel's problems weren't welcome. Dallas, where there was no guarantee she could find an apartment that would take her with her credit destroyed. Dallas, where she'd still be starting from nothing, except Veronica would feel entitled to comment on every decision. I'm going to see it first, then decide. An hour later, Veronica sent $200 via Venmo with a message. This is the last time I'm helping. You need to stop making bad decisions. Rachel deleted the message, bought gas, and headed west. The drive to Colorado Springs took 14 hours with stops for bathroom breaks and to let the twins stretch their legs as much as they could. They slept in the van at a rest stop in New Mexico, arriving in Colorado Springs on a gray Saturday morning when snow threatened in clouds that hung low over the mountains. The city was beautiful, nestled against the Rockies, the peaks rising dramatic and snow-capped against the sky. The kind of place Rachel had seen in magazines, but never imagined living. 2847 Cascade Boulevard was in an older neighborhood. Victorian houses that had been converted to businesses mixed with more modern buildings. And there, on a corner lot, sat the Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. It was worse than the Google Street View photos. The brick was crumbling in places. All the windows were boarded. The roof sagged visibly on one side. Graffiti covered the front door. A chain-link fence surrounded the property, bent and rusted. A condemned notice from the city was stapled to a post. Rachel pulled into the empty parking lot, her heart sinking. A woman in her 60s stepped out of a BMW parked nearby. Patricia Finch, I presume. She was professional, dressed in a business suit despite it being Saturday, carrying a briefcase and a folder thick with documents. Rachel Torres. These are my twins, Mia and Marcus. Ms. Finch smiled at the children, her expression genuine. It's nice to meet you both. She turned back to Rachel. I know it doesn't look like much. That's generous. Let's go inside. I think you'll be surprised. Ms. Finch produced a key ring with a dozen keys, worked through the padlocks on the fence, then the front door. The door opened with a groan that echoed through the empty building. Inside was darkness. Miss Finch pulled out a large flashlight, handed a second one to Rachel. Power's off, but there are windows once we remove the boards. The interior was vast. They stood in what had been a lobby. A reception desk sat covered in dust. Chairs lined the walls, their upholstery torn and faded. But the bones of the building were solid. Hardwood floors beneath the grime. High ceilings with intact crown molding. The walls were plaster, not drywall, the kind of construction they didn't do anymore. Miss Finch led them through. This was a specialty medical facility. Your aunt worked here from 1974 to 2008. It was one of the premier spine treatment centers in the region. Doctors came from all over to train here. She showed them examination rooms, each about 12 by 15 feet. Surgical suites with tile that had stayed remarkably intact. A physical therapy room that spanned the entire back of the first floor, probably 1,500 square feet. Windows along one wall looked out at a small courtyard overgrown with weeds. Upstairs were offices, a records room, a staff lounge, and something unexpected. Dr. Hartley's residence. Miss Finch opened a door to reveal a small apartment. 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchenette. The founder lived here for the last 10 years of the Institute's operation. It's modest, but functional. The twins could have a bedroom. You have the other. There's running water once we restore service. Rachel walked through the small apartment, trying to see past the dust and abandonment. The bedrooms were small, but had windows. The bathroom had a tub. The kitchen had a stove. It was more space than they'd had in 18 months. As they descended back to the first floor, Miss Finch pointed out features Rachel had missed. The heating system is old, but it works. I had it inspected last week. The boiler just needs cleaning. The electrical panel is outdated but functional. You need to have it upgraded eventually, but for basic power, it's adequate. The roof has leaks, but they're reparable. What about the violations from the city? Ms. Finch handed Rachel a folder. Mostly cosmetic. Broken windows, missing roof tiles, fence damage. The structure itself is sound. I had an engineer inspect it. His report is in here. You're looking at about $15,000 in repairs to meet code and make it safe. I told you on the phone. I have $17. I'm aware. Ms. Finch's expression was carefully neutral. But you also have a building you can sell for $45,000 to $50,000, or you could try to save it. Your aunt left a letter for you. Would you like to read it? She handed Rachel an envelope, sealed with wax, old-fashioned. Rachel's hands shook as she opened it. The handwriting inside was spidery but clear. Dear Rachel, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're standing in the building where I spent the best years of my life. I know it doesn't look like much now. I know you probably think I'm crazy for leaving you a condemned medical building when what you need is money. But I'm asking you to see past what it is to what it could be. This institute saved lives. We treated spina bifida, spinal injuries, degenerative diseases. We gave hope to people who'd been told there was nothing more medicine could do. Then insurance companies changed everything. Procedures we'd done for years suddenly weren't covered. Patients couldn't afford treatment. We closed in 2008 because the business model didn't work anymore. But the building remained, and I held on to it. I held on to it because I kept thinking someone would need it again. Someone would see past the broken windows to what this place once was. Someone would have the courage to fight for it. That someone is you, Rachel. I know about your twins. Veronica told me years ago when she was complaining about your choices. She said you'd ruined your life by keeping disabled children. She said you were foolish and stubborn. I thought you were brave. I thought you were exactly the kind of person who'd understand what this building represents. A place where broken bodies found healing. Where people who'd been given up on found hope. The building is yours. What you do with it is your choice. But before you sell it and take the money, before you walk away, I'm asking you to look. Really look. There's something here worth more than money. Something I couldn't access in my lifetime, but maybe you can. I've left clues. If you're as smart as I think you are, you'll find them. Your aunt, Sylvia Martinez. Rachel read the letter twice. Clues. Something worth more than money. She looked at Ms. Finch. Did my aunt say anything else? About clues? Not to me. But she was very insistent the building go to you specifically. Not be sold. Not be demolished. To you. She paused. I think she believed you'd know what to do with it. Or find what she couldn't. The twins had wandered into the physical therapy room, their wheelchairs rolling easily on the smooth floor. Marcus called out, "Mama, come look." Rachel followed his voice. The back wall of the therapy room was covered in photographs. Dozens of them, faded but still visible. Patients with doctors. Children in wheelchairs learning to walk with braces. Surgical teams. Staff celebrations. And there, in the center, a larger photo. A group photo dated 1982. Staff of Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. 20 people in white coats, standing in front of this very building. Rachel's flashlight found her aunt's face. Younger, vibrant, standing beside a tall man with kind eyes. The nameplate below read, Dr. Leonard Hartley, founder and chief surgeon. Sylvia Martinez, head surgical nurse. Mia pointed to a plaque mounted beside the photographs. Mama, what does that say? Rachel read it aloud. In memory of Dr. Leonard Hartley, 1930 to 1994. Founder of Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. Pioneer in pediatric spinal surgery. Healer of the broken. Builder of hope. He dedicated his life to the belief that every spine could be strengthened, every body deserved wholeness. His work continues in the lives he saved. Something about those words struck Rachel. Builder of hope. Every spine could be strengthened. She looked around the physical therapy room with new eyes. This wasn't just an abandoned building. This was a place where children like her twins had been healed, where doctors had fought for them, where hope had been real. Ms. Finch appeared in the doorway. I need to leave soon, but I have papers for you to sign. Transfer of deed. It'll cost you $1. Rachel looked at the twins, at their faces lit with something she hadn't seen in months. Curiosity, interest, the first spark of excitement that wasn't about survival. They weren't complaining about pain. They were exploring, imagining. She thought about Veronica's text. Sell it. Take the money. Get an apartment. Get your life together. She thought about her aunt's letter. Something here worth more than money. She pulled a crumpled dollar bill from her pocket, the last of her cash, handed it to Ms. Finch. Let's do it. The paperwork took an hour. Rachel signed document after document, her hand cramping. Certificate of transfer. Deed. City notifications. Utility applications. Ms. Finch had prepared everything. Finally, she handed Rachel a key ring. These are yours. The building, the property, all of it. She paused. The city will give you 60 days to address the violations. After that, they'll start fining you daily. You need to work fast. How am I supposed to do any of this? I have no money. Ms. Finch pulled out another envelope. Your aunt left $5,000 in a repair fund. It won't cover everything, but it's a start. She met Rachel's eyes. I don't know what else is in this building. I don't know what your aunt meant about clues. But I do know she believed in you when no one else did. Maybe that's worth something. After Ms. Finch left, Rachel sat in the dusty lobby with the twins and tried to process what she'd just done. She'd traded her last dollar and any chance of a quick sale for a condemned building she had no idea how to fix. It felt insane. It felt terrifying. It felt like the first choice she'd made in 18 months that wasn't about pure survival. Mama, can we stay here tonight? Marcus's voice was hopeful. I don't know if it's safe, baby. We can make it safe. Mia wheeled herself to a corner that was relatively clean. Look, it's warmer inside than the van. And there's room for our wheelchairs. Rachel looked around. The building was warmer than the van. Out of the wind. They had flashlights. They had each other. And maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. Okay, we'll stay tonight. Tomorrow we figure out what comes next. They brought their mattresses in from the van, set them up in the small apartment upstairs. Rachel used the $5,000 check to buy a space heater from a hardware store, bottles of water, sandwiches from a gas station. They ate dinner by flashlight in their new home, such as it was. That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. She walked through the building with her flashlight, studying the photographs on the wall. The surgical suites with their equipment long gone. The examination rooms that still had cabinets and counters. Something nagged at her about her aunt's letter. There's something here worth more than money. Something I couldn't access in my lifetime. Her aunt had been a surgical nurse. She'd worked in the operating rooms. Rachel descended to the first floor, found the surgical wing. 3 operating rooms, each about 20 by 20 feet. Tile floors, large overhead lights, dark now. Scrub sinks outside each room. She searched methodically, looking for anything unusual. The cabinets were empty. The drawers held nothing but dust. Then she noticed something. The center operating room was slightly larger than the others. Not by much, maybe 30 square feet difference. But when she measured by pacing the exterior walls versus the interior, there was a discrepancy. The interior was smaller, which meant space existed somewhere between the walls. Rachel ran her hands along the tile, looking for seams, for anything that might indicate a hidden door or passage. Nothing. She checked the cabinets. Solid. The floor? She stamped her foot. The tiles sounded hollow in one section, near the back wall, under where the surgical table would have been. Her heart hammered. She didn't have tools, didn't have anything to pry up tiles, but she had determination and a building that was hers to explore. She returned upstairs, found a metal bed frame in one of the offices, twisted until a support bar came free, used it to lever up the edge of a tile. It came up easier than expected, and beneath it, instead of concrete, was metal, a panel. Rachel worked for an hour, prying up 6 tiles to reveal a steel hatch about 3 feet square. It had a recessed handle and a lock, an old combination lock, the kind with numbers you spin. Rachel sat back, breathing hard. A locked hatch in the floor of an operating room. This had to be what her aunt meant. But what was the combination? She thought about the plaque in the therapy room. Dr. Leonard Hartley, 1930 to 1994. She tried 1930. The lock didn't budge. Tried 1994. Nothing. Tried 0819. The dates of the institute based on Ms. Finch's information. Still nothing. She looked around the room, her flashlight illuminating walls that held nothing but shadows. Then she remembered the photographs. Dr. Hartley standing with her aunt. 1982. She tried those numbers. The lock clicked. Opened. Rachel's hands shook as she lifted the hatch. Below was darkness and the smell of stale air. Metal stairs descended into what looked like a basement. No, not a basement. A vault. Rachel descended carefully, her flashlight beam cutting through the dark. The space below was perhaps 20 by 30 feet. The walls were concrete, lined with steel shelving. And on those shelves sat medical equipment that made Rachel's breath catch. Surgical instruments in sealed cases. Medication in glass vials. Files and files of patient records. And then she saw it. The back wall wasn't shelving. It was a door. A vault door. Solid steel with a wheel lock like a bank safe. Rachel approached it slowly. This was beyond a hidden space. This was something someone had built to protect something valuable. She tried the wheel. It turned smoothly, well-maintained despite years of disuse. The door opened with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was a smaller chamber, maybe 10 by 10 feet. And what Rachel saw made the flashlight fall from her shaking hand. Metal filing cabinets lined both walls. But these weren't patient records. Rachel opened the nearest drawer. Inside were documents in plastic sleeves. She pulled one out, read it by the fallen flashlight's beam. Patent. Hartley's spinal fusion technique. Approved 1979. Licensed to Boston Surgical Supply. Royalty payments. Rachel's hands trembled as she pulled out more documents. Patent after patent. Surgical techniques. Medical devices. Innovations in spinal surgery. All developed by Dr. Hartley. All licensed to medical supply companies. All generating royalties. The files were meticulous. Contracts. Payment records. Bank statements. She found a ledger dated December 1993, Dr. Hartley's handwriting. Total royalties received 1979 to 1993. $847,000. Invested in treasury bonds, returning 6% annually. Current value. Her eyes scanned down. $1.2 million. But that was 1993. Rachel kept searching, found more recent documents in her aunt's handwriting. A note dated 2008, the year the institute closed. Dr. Hartley died in 1994. His heir, his son Daniel Hartley, inherited everything. But Daniel didn't know about the vault. Leonard built it in 1979 when the first patents were approved. He told only me. made me promise to keep it secret until the right person could be trusted with it. Daniel would have sold everything, taken the money, forgotten his father's work. Leonard didn't want that, so the vault stayed hidden. The patents continued generating money, paid into an account Daniel never knew existed. I monitored it. I protected it, but I can't access it. The account requires DNA verification from Leonard's bloodline, or legal transfer to a direct heir of this property. Rachel, if you're reading this, you're the property heir, which means you can access the account. The current value as of my last check in 2023, $127 million. That number couldn't be real. Rachel read it again. $127 million. An account tied to patents, to medical innovations, to Dr. Hartley's life work. She kept reading. The patents are still active. Some don't expire until 2031. Others were renewed and updated. Every year, they generate approximately $8 to $12 million in royalties from companies worldwide using Leonard's techniques. The money kept growing because no one was spending it. Leonard died. Sylvia protected it. Daniel Hartley never knew it existed. Rachel found bank documents, account numbers, contact information for the financial institution, legal papers showing the account had been held in trust, frozen pending legal verification of the property heir. Instructions in her aunt's handwriting. Take the deed. Take these documents. Go to First National Bank of Colorado Springs. Ask for Marcus Strand in private wealth management. He knows about the account. He's been waiting for 30 years for someone to claim it. Rachel climbed back up the stairs, her legs shaking. She closed the hatch, replaced the tiles, sat in the dark surgical room, trying to process what she'd found. $127 million. More money than she could comprehend. Money that could pay for her twins' medical care for their entire lives. Money that could restore this building, turn it back into the Spine Institute it once was. Money that meant they never had to sleep in the van again. But also money that would attract attention. Greed. Family who'd abandoned her, suddenly wanting their share. She thought about her sister Veronica's texts. How quickly she dismissed Rachel's choices. How she'd demand a portion of this because family. Rachel made a decision in that dark surgical room. She wouldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not until she understood what she had and what it meant. She'd keep the vault secret. Keep the twins safe. Figure out how to protect this gift her aunt and Dr. Hartley had left for her. She climbed back upstairs to the small apartment where Mia and Marcus slept peacefully for the first time in months. Real walls around them. A roof over their heads. Not knowing that beneath them lay a fortune that could change everything. Rachel lay down between her children, pulled them close, and whispered into the darkness. "Thank you, Aunt Sylvia. I won't let you down. I promise." The next morning dawned cold and clear, sunlight streaming through the gaps in the boarded windows. Rachel woke to Marcus tugging her arm. "Mama, there's people outside." She stumbled to the window, peered through the boards. 3 people stood in the parking lot. Her stomach sank when she recognized the tall figure. Veronica, with her husband Carlos and someone else, a man in a suit carrying a briefcase. Rachel descended quickly, met them at the front door before they could try to enter. Veronica's expression was a mix of pity and irritation. "I cannot believe you actually came here. This place is a dump, Rachel." Carlos stood behind his wife, arms crossed. "We drove 6 hours to talk sense into you." The man in the suit stepped forward. "Marcus Chun, attorney. Your sister asked me to review the legal documents regarding this transfer. There may be grounds to contest." Rachel's jaw tightened. "I already own the building. The deed is filed." Ms. Chun smiled, patient. "But if you were coerced, if the property value wasn't properly disclosed, if your aunt was mentally incompetent when she made the will, there are avenues to explore." "I don't need avenues. I need you to leave." Veronica's patience snapped. "Rachel, stop being stupid. You can't fix this place. You have no money, no skills, no plan. Sell it. Split the money with me and Miguel, and let's all move on with our lives." "Why would I split it with you? You've never helped me." Veronica's face flushed. "I sent you $200. That's help. After 18 months of U.S. living in a car, while you lived in your perfect house with your perfect family. After you made it clear we weren't welcome, Rachel's voice rose. You told Miguel that my kids were a burden, that I should have terminated the pregnancy because disabled children weren't worth the trouble. Veronica had the grace to look away. I was worried about you. No, you were worried I'd embarrass you. Worried your friends would find out your sister was homeless. This building is mine. Aunt Sylvia left it to me because she knew you'd do exactly this. Show up with a lawyer and try to take it. Carlos, step forward. Be reasonable. You need help. We're family. Family helps when it's convenient for them. Rachel was done trying to be polite. You want to help? Leave. Let me figure this out on my own. Ms. Chun handed her a business card. When you're ready to discuss options, call me. The market value of this property is approximately $55,000. I can negotiate a sale that benefits all parties. Unless there's some reason you don't want to sell. Rachel heard the probe in that question. Some reason. Like the vault under the surgical room. Like the $127 million her aunt and Dr. Hartley had hidden for decades. She kept her expression neutral. I'm not ready to sell yet. We just got here. Veronica's eyes narrowed. Why? What's in this building that you're not telling us? Nothing you need to know about. Rachel met her sister's gaze. Now, please leave before I call the police for trespassing. They left, but not before Veronica issued a warning. I'm going to find out what you're hiding, Rachel. And when I do, we'll see who's entitled to what. Rachel watched them drive away, her heart pounding. That exchange confirmed what she'd suspected. The moment anyone knew about the money, the vultures would descend. She needed to move carefully, needed to protect the vault until she could access it legally and safely. She returned inside to find the twins awake, Mia crying softly. Mama, I heard yelling. Are we in trouble? No, baby. We're fine. Aunt Veronica was just Rachel's search for words. Worried about us. Marcus wheeled closer. She wants our house. Our building. Rachel knelt between her children. She wants a lot of things, but this is ours. Aunt Sylvia gave it to us, and we're going to take care of it. The next 3 days were a blur. Rachel used a $5,000 repair fund strategically. Hired a handyman to remove the boards from windows, letting light flood the building for the first time in years. Called the utility company to restore water and electricity. Found a contractor who agreed to patch the walk through with Rachel, taking notes, asking questions. Tell me everything, from the moment you inherited. Rachel told her. The letter from Ms. Finch. The property transfer. The vault discovery. The trust fund. All of it. Jennifer listened without interrupting, her pen moving steadily across her legal pad. When Rachel finished, Jennifer sat back. Okay, Daniel Hartley's case is weak. Dr. Hartley signed the property transfer in 1992, 2 years before his death. Multiple witnesses, including Ms. Finch and your aunt. Medical records show he was completely competent. The building was his to give. But Daniel will argue undue influence. That my aunt manipulated him. That's where it gets interesting. Jennifer smiled slightly. Sylvia Martinez didn't inherit anything. The building went directly to you via the will, bypassing her entirely. That makes the undue influence argument much harder to prove. Plus, Daniel abandoned his father. Never visited after 1990. A judge won't like that. What about the trust fund? That's separate, completely sealed. Daniel can't access it without DNA verification and property ownership. Even if he wins the building, he need to prove he's entitled to assets his father deliberately hid from him. Jennifer met Rachel's eyes. Your aunt and Dr. Hartley planned this for decades. They knew Daniel would fight. They built protections. Can we win? We can, but it's going to get ugly. Daniel will drag your aunt's reputation through the mud. He'll question your fitness as a mother. He'll paint you as a homeless opportunist who manipulated a dying woman. Are you prepared for that? Rachel thought about the twins upstairs, about the building that was finally becoming a home, about children with spina bifida who might never get the treatment they deserved if this institute disappeared. I'm prepared. The lawsuit moved forward through November. Jennifer filed countermotions. Daniel's lawyers demanded depositions. The local media picked up the story. Wealthy businessman sues homeless mother over medical building. The narrative framed Daniel as the wrong son, Rachel as the suspicious outsider. Comments online were brutal. She's clearly hiding something. No homeless woman can afford those renovations. She probably forged the will. Rachel stopped reading after the first day, but the twins' school had seen the articles. Mia came home crying. The kid said we stole your house, that you're a bad person. Marcus was quieter, withdrawn. His teacher pulled Rachel aside. He's been having more pain episodes at school. The stress is affecting him. I think all of this is too much for the children. Rachel felt like she was being torn apart, fighting to keep what was rightfully hers while watching her children suffer from the attention. That night, she found Marcus in his wheelchair by the window, staring out at the parking lot. "Baby, talk to me. What's wrong? Are they going to take our house again?" "No one is taking anything. I promise." "You can't promise that." Marcus's voice broke. "Adults always say everything will be okay, but then it's not. Then we're back in the van, or in a hospital, or someplace we don't want to be." Rachel knelt beside his wheelchair, her heart shattering. "You're right. I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen, but I can promise I'll fight with everything I have to protect you and your sister. This building is ours legally, ethically, in every way that matters. And I'm not giving it up without a fight. Even if it's hard. Even if it's hard. I've been through hard before. We all have. We can do it again if we have to." Marcus leaned against her. "I'm tired of being brave." "I know, sweetheart. Me too. But that's what makes us strong. We keep going even when we're tired." The deposition happened in late November. Daniel Hartley's lawyers questioned Rachel for 6 hours. Every detail of her life examined, judged, twisted. They asked about her homelessness, her job history, her failed marriage, James Torres abandoning her, how much money she had when she arrived in Colorado Springs. $17. How she afforded the renovations. "My aunt left a repair fund." "How much?" $5,000. The lawyer smiled. "You expect us to believe $50,000 in renovations cost only $5,000? Rachel kept her face neutral. "I used the $5,000 to address immediate violations. Then I saved money from my work to continue repairs." "What work?" "You've been unemployed for 18 months. I found work after moving here. Cleaning, childcare, whatever I could get. All cash, of course." The lawyer's skepticism dripped. "No records. No tax forms. Small jobs don't always come with paperwork." It was technically true. Rachel had taken a few cash cleaning jobs to create a cover story. She had the money. She was using it carefully, but the lawyers made her feel like a criminal. They asked about the twins' medical needs, whether she could properly care for them, whether living in a construction site was appropriate for disabled children. Rachel's lawyer, Jennifer, objected repeatedly, but the questions left their mark. Daniel Hartley's deposition came 2 weeks later. Jennifer tore him apart. "When did you last visit your father before his death?" "I'm not sure. The records show you visited once in 1990, for years before he died." "Is that accurate?" "I was busy building my career. Too busy to see your dying father even once." "I didn't know he was dying." "He had a heart condition documented since 1988. His doctor's notes mention he requested you visit multiple times. You never responded." Daniel's face went red. "I sent money. Money isn't the same as presents." Jennifer pulled out letters. "These are from Dr. Hartley to Sylvia Martinez, dated 1991 and 1992. In them, he expresses his disappointment that his son never visits, that he's grateful Sylvia has become like family because his real family abandoned him." "I object to relevance." Daniel's lawyer stood. "These are highly relevant to Dr. Hartley's state of mind when he transferred the property. He wasn't manipulated. He deliberately chose someone who cared about him and his work over a son who only saw him as a source of inheritance." The deposition ended with Daniel storming out. But Jennifer warned Rachel that night. "We're winning on the abandonment angle, but Daniel's lawyers will pivot. They'll start investigating your finances more aggressively. They know something doesn't add up. You need to be prepared for them to discover the trust. What happens if they do? They'll claim you hid assets deliberately, that you have ulterior motives. It won't invalidate your ownership, but it will make you look dishonest." Jennifer paused. "I think we need to disclose the trust voluntarily. Control the narrative. But then everyone will know. Everyone will know eventually. Mr. Strand estimates 6 months before the patent royalties become public record anyway. Better to be transparent now than look like you are hiding it later." Rachel felt trapped. If she disclosed, the greed would intensify. If she didn't, she looked dishonest. What do you recommend? We file an amended disclosure showing you inherited both the building and the associated trust fund. We explain that Dr. Hartley established the trust specifically to fund ongoing spine research and patient. Roof for $2,500, payment on completion. She cleaned obsessively, swept floors, washed windows, scrubbed bathrooms until they were functional. The twins helped as much as they could, their wheelchairs navigating the space easily now that debris had been cleared. They made the small apartment livable, found furniture in the building's storage rooms that just needed cleaning, made curtains from sheets, hung the twins' drawings on the walls. By day 4, the building had transformed from abandoned to inhabited. It wasn't beautiful. The walls needed painting. The floors needed refinishing. But it was warm, dry, safe. It was home. Rachel called First National Bank of Colorado Springs on day 5. Asked for Marcus Strand. The receptionist put her through immediately. Miss Torres. Mr. Strand's voice was warm, expectant. Sylvia said you might call eventually. I've been waiting 30 years. You know about the account? I've managed it since Dr. Hartley's death in 1994. Your aunt asked me to keep it secure until the property heir claimed it. She believed that would be someone who cared about more than just the money. I care about my children. I care about this building. Can you help me access the account? I'll need documentation. The deed showing property transfer. DNA verification you're related to Sylvia Martinez. And a meeting to discuss how to protect this properly. When can you come in? Is Friday too soon? Friday is perfect. Mr. Strand paused. Miss Torres, I should warn you. The moment you access this account, it becomes part of public record. Wealthy people attract attention. You need to be prepared for that. I'm already getting attention. My sister showed up with a lawyer trying to contest the transfer. Then we need to move quickly. Bring the twins Friday. We'll do the DNA verification, establish you as the legal beneficiary, and set up protections. After 30 years of waiting, I'd like to see Dr. Hartley's work finally used for its intended purpose, which was healing. That's what he always wanted. The money was just a means to that end. Friday morning, Rachel dressed the twins in their cleanest clothes, drove the 15 minutes to downtown Colorado Springs. First National Bank occupied a beautiful old building with marble floors and columns. Marcus Strand met them in the lobby, a man in his 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Welcome. Let's talk privately. His office overlooked the mountains. He offered the twins coloring books and juice, then turned his attention to Rachel. Show me what you brought. Rachel laid out the deed, her aunt's letter, the documents from the vault. Mr. Strand examined everything carefully. This is extraordinary. I knew Sylvia was protecting something, but I didn't know the full story. He pulled up records on his computer. The Hartley Medical Innovation Trust. Established 1979. Current value, $134 million. It's grown since her aunt's last check. Rachel's hand shook. She'd seen $127 million in her aunt's notes. Somehow it had increased by another $7 million in just months. The patents are still generating income. Mr. Strand explained. About $900,000 per month currently. Some months more, depending on surgical supply sales. Dr. Hartley developed 17 major innovations in spinal surgery. Each one is still used worldwide. I don't understand patents. You don't need to. What you need to understand is that this money represents decades of medical advancement. Dr. Hartley could have sold his patents outright for millions when he developed them. Instead, he licensed them with royalties so he could continue funding research and patient care. When he died, he planned to leave everything to his son Daniel, but Sylvia convinced him Daniel would squander it. So they created the trust with conditions. What conditions? The trust funds must be used for spinal medical research, patient care, or maintaining the facility where the work was developed. You can't just take the money and disappear. It's tied to the building, to continuing Dr. Hartley's work. Mr. Strand met her eyes. Can you do that? Can you turn that building back into what it was? A place that helps people? Rachel thought about her twins, about children with spina bifida who couldn't afford treatment, about families like hers who'd been abandoned by the medical system. I think that's exactly what I need to do. Good. Then let's make this legal. The DNA verification took an hour. A technician swabbed Rachel's cheek, and her aunt's preserved samples from estate records. The match confirmed Rachel was Sylvia Martinez's niece. The paperwork took longer. Mr. Strand had prepared everything. Trust documents, beneficiary agreements, financial management contracts. You'll have full access to the trust funds, but I strongly recommend keeping 99% invested and only drawing what you need for specific projects. This money can last forever if managed properly. What about my sister? What about other family whom I try to claim? Your aunt was explicit. The property and all associated assets go to you alone. Dr. Hartley's son Daniel has no legal claim because he was never informed of the trust's existence. No other family members have standing. Rachel signed document after document, her hand cramping. Finally, Mr. Strand pushed a folder across his desk. You now have full access to $134 million. I've set up operating accounts. One for personal use with a limit of $50,000 monthly to prevent impulse spending. One for building restoration and repairs, no limit but requires contractor documentation. One for medical expenses, also unlimited with proper billing. And the main trust account continues to generate income. This doesn't feel real. It will. Mr. Strand smiled. My advice? Start small. Fix the building. Address the city violations. Then decide what comes next. Don't rush. Don't tell everyone. People act differently when they know you're wealthy. You'd be amazed how many relatives suddenly remember caring about you. Rachel thought about Veronica. Carlos, the lawyer they brought. She already had a taste of that greed. What if people ask questions? Tell them you're using savings from your aunt's estate to make repairs. It's technically true. The trust is your aunt's estate. And take your time. Mr. Strand's expression turned serious. Wealth doesn't solve problems instantly. It just gives you resources to address them. The real work is still yours to do. Rachel left the bank with 3 debit cards, a folder of financial documents, and a feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. The twins were quiet in the back seat, exhausted from the long appointment. She stopped at a grocery store on the way home. Not the discount store where she'd stretch food stamps. A regular grocery store where normal people shopped. She walked through the aisles, her debit card burning in her pocket. $50,000 available monthly for personal use. She could buy anything, everything. She grabbed the card and started carefully. Milk, bread, eggs. Then stopped herself. She had money now. Real money. She could afford vegetables, fruit, meat that wasn't the cheapest cut, treats for the twins. Her cart filled quickly. Snacks Mia and Marcus had asked for, but she'd always had to refuse. Their favorite cereal, fresh strawberries, chicken breasts instead of hot dogs, ice cream, new toothbrushes because theirs were falling apart. By the time she reached the register, she'd spent $147. The most she'd spent on groceries in a single trip in 3 years. The card worked. The transaction approved. The cashier smiled and said have a nice day like this was normal. Like Rachel wasn't about to cry from the simple act of buying her children strawberries. That night, they ate chicken and vegetables at their small table in the apartment above the institute. Mia picked through her food cautiously. This is real chicken, like from a restaurant? Better than a restaurant. Rachel smiled. I made it. Can we have this again? As often as you want, baby. Marcus was quiet, pushing food around his plate. Finally, he looked up. Mama, are we rich now? Rachel's throat tightened. We have enough money to be comfortable, to fix the building, to take care of you both. That's different from rich. Marcus's eyes were too serious for 7 years old. Rich is having more money than you need. We have enough for what matters. Rachel reached across the table, took both their hands. What matters is you two being healthy and happy. This building being a home. Maybe helping other kids like you. That's what we're going to use the money for. The next morning, Rachel started making calls. First, a contractor to finish addressing the city violations. Then a plumber to inspect all the pipes. An electrician to upgrade the panel. A roofer to handle the leaks properly instead of just patching. Each one gave estimates that would have been impossible a week ago. Now she just wrote checks. The work began that Monday. 6 different crews descended on the institute. The sound of hammering, sawing, drilling filled the building. The twins watched from their upstairs windows, fascinated. "Mama, our house is getting fixed." "It is, baby." Rachel stood beside them, watching workers replace broken windows. "It's really happening." By the end of week 1, the exterior was transformed. New windows throughout. Roof completely repaired. The fence replaced with secure chain link and a proper gate. Fresh paint on the trim. The graffiti removed from the brick. The building looked alive again. Cared for. The city inspector came on Friday, walked through with his clipboard, and signed off on all the violations. "You've done impressive work here, Miss Torres. Most people would have torn this place down. It was worth saving." The inspector looked at her curiously. "What are you planning to do with it?" "I'm not sure yet." Rachel had practiced this answer. Maybe office space. Maybe something medical-related. "My aunt worked here when it was a spine institute. There's history here." He nodded, satisfied, and left. One hurdle cleared, but word was spreading. The local newspaper ran a small article. "Historic medical building saved from demolition." It mentioned Rachel by name, included a photo of the renovated exterior. The article was positive, celebrating preservation of Colorado Springs history. But it drew attention Rachel wasn't ready for. The call started that afternoon. A realtor wanting to list the property. A developer offering to buy it outright. Someone from the Historical Society asking about tours. And worst, a call from Veronica. "I saw the article. You're spending money on that dump? Where did you get money for contractors?" Aunt Sylvia left a small repair fund. Rachel kept her voice even. "That's all. That's all." Veronica didn't believe her. Rachel could hear it in the silence. "You're hiding something. If you're keeping part of Aunt Sylvia's estate from me and Miguel, that's illegal." "I'm not keeping anything." The building was mine-free and clear. Everything else went to estate fees and taxes. Another long pause. "Carlos thinks we should hire an investigator. Make sure the estate was settled properly." "You do that." Rachel's patience snapped. "Hire whoever you want. You'll find exactly what I told you." "Nothing." She hung up before Veronica could respond. That night, she lay awake worrying. Would an investigator find the trust? Could they? Mr. Strand had assured her the trust was completely legal, completely separate from Sylvia's personal estate. But worry gnawed at her. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. 2 men in suits appeared at the gate. Rachel met them outside, the twins safely inside. "Can I help you?" "Daniel Hartley." The older man extended his hand. "This was my father's building. I inherited it when he died in 1994. Rachel's stomach dropped. "No, you didn't. I have the deed. My Aunt Sylvia Martinez owned it. She left it to me." Daniel's expression hardened. "My father built this institute. When he died, everything should have come to me. But your aunt somehow convinced him to transfer the building to her name before his death. I've always suspected fraud." The younger man pulled out a card. "Tom Breslin, attorney. We're filing a motion to contest the property transfer. If Dr. Hartley was mentally incompetent when he signed over the building, the transfer is invalid." "He wasn't incompetent." Rachel's voice shook with anger. "He trusted my aunt. She worked with him for 30 years. You never even came here. You abandoned him." Daniel's face flushed. "I was building my own career. I couldn't drop everything to play doctor in his failing institute. That failing institute was the most respected spine center in the region. The only thing that failed was you as a son." She regretted the words immediately, but they were out. Daniel stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. "I'm going to prove my father wasn't competent, that your aunt manipulated him. And when I do, this building reverts to me, along with everything it contains." He knows. The realization hit Rachel like ice water. He knows about the vault, about the trust. Mr. Breslin handed her legal papers. "You're being served. Court date is in 60 days. We'll see what a judge thinks about inheritance fraud." They left. Rachel stood shaking, the legal documents crumpling in her fist. She'd had the building for 12 days. Already, she was facing a lawsuit from Dr. Hartley's son. She called Mr. Strand immediately. "He's contesting the transfer." Daniel Hartley showed up with lawyers. "I know." Mr. Strand didn't sound surprised. "He's been waiting for years to challenge it. Your aunt anticipated this. The legal groundwork is solid. But what if he wins? Then you lose the building and the trust." Mr. Strand's voice was gentle but honest. I won't lie to you, Rachel. Daniel has resources. He spent the last 30 years building a medical device company. He's wealthy, connected, and he knows his father developed valuable patents. He's been searching for them since 1994. So far, he hasn't found the vault. No, your aunt hit it too well. But the moment this goes to court, there will be discovery, depositions, financial investigations. If he finds out about the $134 million, he'll fight even harder. What do I do? You need a lawyer. A good one. Someone who specializes in estate law and won't back down from bully. I know someone. Jennifer Martinez. No relation to your aunt, but she's brilliant. Let me call her. Jennifer Martinez arrived at the Institute 2 days later. She was 40-something, sharp-eyed, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that somehow didn't look out of place in the construction zone building. Care. We show that you're using the money exactly as intended. We make Daniel look like the greedy one trying to steal money meant for sick children. Rachel closed her eyes. Do it. The amended filing went public on December 3rd. The headlines changed overnight. Homeless mother inherited $134 million medical trust. The story exploded. National news picked it up. Rachel's face was everywhere. Local stations parked outside the Institute. Reporters called constantly. Her phone number somehow leaked, and strangers called demanding money, offering investment opportunities, threatening lawsuits. The twins couldn't go to school. Photographers camped outside, trying to get pictures. Their principal called. I'm sorry, but for the safety of all students, we need to ask that Mia and Marcus stay home until the media attention dies down. Homeschooling arrangements can be made. Rachel was furious, but powerless. Her children were being punished because she'd inherited money. Veronica called within an hour of the news breaking. $134 million. Her voice was ice and fury. You lied to me. You said there was nothing. I said there was nothing you needed to know about. And I was right. You were never going to help. You just wanted a cut. Miguel called next. His voice was quieter, conflicted. I saw the news. Rachel, that's life-changing money. I know. I'm serving overseas. I've been sending you everything I can spare. You didn't think to mention you had millions? I just found out about the trust a few weeks ago, and I needed time to process it, to figure out what to do, to make sure it was real and protected before people started demanding pieces of it. Like me? Miguel sounded hurt. I'm not demanding anything, but I'm your brother. We're family. You could have told me. You're right. Rachel felt guilty. I should have told you. I was scared. Once people knew, everything would change. It already has. They talked for an hour. Miguel was genuinely hurt, but he understood once Rachel explained the lawsuit, the threats, the pressure. I don't want your money, Rachel. I just want to know my sister trusts me. I do trust you. You're the only family who ever helped without expecting something in return. But Veronica was a different story. She filed a motion to join Daniel Hartley's lawsuit, claiming as Sylvia Martinez's niece, she was entitled to a portion of any inheritance. Her lawyer argued that the trust fund should be split among all of Sylvia's relatives. Carlos showed up at the Institute with papers trying to serve Rachel directly. She refused to open the gate. Called the police. They removed him. That night, someone threw a brick through one of the newly installed windows. The note attached read, "Greedy bitch. Stolen money never lasts. You'll get what's coming." Rachel called the police. They filed a report, but said without cameras or witnesses, there was nothing they could do. She installed a security system the next day. Cameras covering every angle. Motion sensors. An alarm linked to the police station. The twins were terrified. Marcus had nightmares. Mia refused to sleep alone. They all slept together in Rachel's room. The door locked, the alarm armed. Rachel lay awake listening to every sound, wondering if someone would try to break in. Wondering if protecting this money was worth the cost to her children's sense of safety. December brought Colorado's first major snowstorm. 18 inches fell overnight. The Institute's old heating system struggled. Rachel called a contractor to upgrade it. While he worked, he mentioned something that caught her attention. You know this building has a full basement, right? There's no basement. I've been through the whole building. There's definitely a basement. The old heating system runs down there. but the access is blocked off. Might have been sealed decades ago for code reasons. Can you show me? He led her to the mechanical room behind the physical therapy space. There, behind a massive old boiler, was a steel door, painted over so many times it blended with the wall. But it had a handle and a lock. Rachel's heart rate picked up. Another hidden space. The contractor noticed her expression. Wanting to force it open? It's your building. Not yet. Let me check the property records first. She didn't want workers finding whatever was down there before she had a chance to investigate privately. That night, after the contractors left, Rachel descended to the mechanical room alone. She found bolt cutters in the storage room. Used them on the lock. The door opened with a groan. Stairs led down into darkness. These were concrete, institutional, not the secret carved stairs to Dr. Hartley's vault. This was original to the building. Rachel descended carefully. The basement was huge, maybe 40 by 60 feet, and it was filled with equipment. Surgical equipment, still in crates. She examined the labels. Spinal fusion hardware dated 2007. Surgical microscopes. Monitoring equipment. Everything still sealed in original packaging. There were dozens of crates. Rachel opened them one by one. State-of-the-art medical equipment for spine surgery. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth. Maybe millions. All dated 2007 and 2008, the years before the institute closed. Why was all of this down here? She found a file box in the corner. Inside were purchase orders, invoices, correspondence. A letter from Dr. Hartley's estate attorney to Sylvia Martinez dated December 2008 caught her eye. As per Dr. Hartley's final instructions, the equipment purchased for the institute expansion has been placed in storage. He specified that it should remain sealed until his work could be continued by someone qualified. His son Daniel showed no interest in spine surgery, pursuing medical device sales instead. Dr. Hartley hoped that someday the institute would reopen under proper leadership. Until then, all equipment remains in trust, maintained by the building's owner. Rachel sat on the concrete floor, surrounded by crates of equipment worth perhaps $2 or $3 million. Dr. Hartley had bought everything needed to run a modern spine surgery center, then died before it could be used. The equipment had sat here for 17 years, waiting. She thought about the twins upstairs, about children with spina bifida who couldn't afford treatment, about families bankrupted by medical bills, about what this building could be if the equipment was put to use. But reopening a medical facility would require licenses, staff, insurance, legal approval. It would take years, cost millions more beyond what was in the trust, and it would paint an even bigger target on her back. Everyone who wanted the money now would fight even harder if she tried to actually use it for its intended purpose. She closed the basement, locked it, told no one. The court date was set for January 14th. Christmas passed in a blur of legal preparation. Jennifer filed motion after motion. Daniel Hartley's lawyers countered every one. The twins had a quiet Christmas. No extended family. No celebrations. Just the three of them in the institute, trying to pretend everything was normal. Rachel bought them gifts for the first time in years. New wheelchairs, custom fitted and bright blue like they'd wanted. New leg braces. Books. Games. Things she'd never been able to afford before. But the gifts felt hollow against the stress they were all carrying. New Year's came. Rachel made resolutions she didn't believe. This year will be better. We'll win the lawsuit. Things will settle down. The twins will be safe and happy. But doubt gnawed at her. What if they lost? What if Daniel Hartley convinced a judge he deserved the building? What if the trust was somehow invalidated? She'd be back in a van with her children, this brief hope destroyed. 2 days before the court date, Rachel received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 2 words cut from magazine letters. You're next. The threat was clear. Someone wanted to intimidate her, stop her from fighting. She showed it to Jennifer, who immediately contacted the police. Another report filed. Another investigation that would likely go nowhere. That night, Rachel dreamed about the brick through the window. The anonymous threat. Someone hurting the twins because she dared to accept an inheritance she was legally entitled to. She woke at 3 a.m. and made a decision. She couldn't back down now. If she did, She'd teach her children that bullies won, that people who fought for what was right got crushed, that disabled children and their mothers should accept whatever crumbs society threw them and be grateful. No, she'd been taught that all her life, that she should have terminated the pregnancy when the Spina Bifida diagnosis came, that she was selfish to bring disabled children into the world, that she deserved poverty for refusing to make the practical choice. The world had punished her for loving her children, for fighting for them, for refusing to give up. This inheritance wasn't just money. It was vindication, proof that her choice to keep fighting mattered, that good things could happen to people who persevered. She went to the twins' room. They were both awake, lying in their beds, whispering to each other. "Mama, are you okay?" Mia's voice was small. "I'm okay, baby. Come here, both of you." They gathered in Rachel's lap. Too big for this now, but still her babies. "I want to tell you something important. Tomorrow we go to court. There's going to be a man there who says we don't deserve this building, that we stole it or manipulated someone to get it. He's going to say mean things about me, about our family. Will we lose our house again?" Marcus's fear was palpable. "I don't know. Judges can be unpredictable, but I do know that Aunt Sylvia wanted us to have this building. Dr. Hartley wanted his work to continue. We're using the money exactly like they intended, to help people. That matters more than what anyone claims in court. But what if they take it anyway? Then we start over. We've done it before." But Rachel pulled them closer. "We never give up. We never let people who try to hurt us win. We keep fighting because that's what brave people do. And you two are the bravest people I know." The courtroom on January 14th was packed. Media filled the back rows. Daniel Hartley sat with his legal team, for lawyers in expensive suits. Veronica sat with her lawyer on Daniel's side, a visual statement of alliance against Rachel. Jennifer sat beside Rachel, calm and prepared. The judge was Carolyn Winters, a woman in her early 60s known for no-nonsense decisions. She surveyed the courtroom with an expression that suggested she'd seen this kind of family fight too many times. Mr. Breslin, representing Daniel Hartley, stood first. "Your Honor, this case is about an elderly man manipulated in his final years. Dr. Leonard Hartley built Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. He developed revolutionary surgical techniques. He was my client's father. Yet in 1992, just 2 years before his death, he transferred ownership of the building to Sylvia Martinez, his nurse. We believe Ms. Martinez exploited Dr. Hartley's declining mental state to steal his property." Jennifer stood. "Objection. Dr. Hartley's medical records, which we've submitted, show he was completely competent in 1992. He had no cognitive decline, no dementia, no impairment of any kind. This is character assassination with no evidence." Judge Winters looked at Mr. Breslin. "Do you have evidence of incompetence?" "We have testimony from neighbors who said Dr. Hartley became reclusive and paranoid in his final years." "Reclusive isn't incompetent." Winters' tone was dry. "Half the people in Colorado Springs are reclusive. That's why they live here. What else do you have?" Daniel Hartley took the stand, testified about his father's increasing paranoia, how Dr. Hartley had refused to share financial information, how he'd pushed Daniel away, made it clear he was distrustful of everyone except Sylvia Martinez. "That's not normal behavior." Jennifer cross-examined. "When did you last visit your father before his death?" "I believe it was 1990. For years before he died." "You never came to see him again?" "I was building my career." "You weren't too busy to contest his estate immediately after he died, though." "You filed a challenge in 1995. I withdrew it when I discovered the building had minimal value." Jennifer's voice sharpened. "So you only cared about your father's property if it was worth enough to pursue legally?" "That's not what I..." Daniel stumbled. "I thought Sylvia might have hidden assets." "Did she?" "We couldn't find any at the time. But now Ms. Torres claims there's a $134 million trust. That money should belong to me." "Based on what?" "You abandoned your father. Never visited. Never called. You have no moral claim to anything he left behind." The questioning went on for an hour. Jennifer methodically destroyed Daniel's credibility, showed his abandonment, his immediate pursuit of money after his father's death, his complete lack of interest in the Institute or its mission. Then Rachel took the stand. Mr. Breslin asked pointed questions about her homelessness, her children's disabilities, whether she was capable of managing such a large sum. You've been unemployed and homeless for 18 months. Suddenly you inherit millions. Don't you think that's suspicious? I think I was lucky. My aunt saw something in me worth believing in. What did she see? A single mother who never gave up on her disabled children. Someone who understood what it meant to fight for medical care against systems that don't care. Someone who might actually use Dr. Hartley's legacy to help people instead of just taking the money and running. You expect us to believe you won't just take the money? I've already used some of the trust funds to renovate the building, to make it safe and functional. I'm planning to continue Dr. Hartley's work, eventually reopening the institute to help children with spinal conditions. That's a convenient claim to make in court. It's the truth. Jennifer stood. Your Honor, if I may, I have documentation showing Ms. Torres has spent over $300,000 from the trust purely on building restoration. No personal expenses, no vacations, no luxury purchases. She's living in a small apartment above the institute with her children, using the money exactly as Dr. Hartley intended. Judge Winters reviewed the documents. What about you, Ms. Hayes? Rachel's sister. You've joined this lawsuit claiming you're entitled to part of the trust. Veronica took the stand, uncomfortable under the judge's scrutiny. Sylvia Martinez was my aunt too. If she left an inheritance, I should receive an equal share. Did your aunt maintain a relationship with you? We exchanged Christmas cards. That's all. We weren't close. Rachel was closer to her. Why is that? Veronica hesitated. I don't know. Maybe because she was struggling and Aunt Sylvia felt sorry for her. Or maybe, Judge Winters said, because Ms. Martinez valued character over convenience. Family who only shows up when money's involved doesn't deserve inheritance. That's a lesson more people should learn. Your claim is denied. Court adjourned for lunch. During the break, Daniel Hartley approached Rachel in the courthouse hallway. His lawyers held him back, but he spat words like venom. You think you've won? I'll appeal. I'll fight this for years. You'll spend every dollar defending yourself. I have resources you can't imagine. Jennifer stepped between them. Mr. Hartley, if you continue harassing my client, I'll file for a restraining order. He backed off, but his eyes promised this wasn't over. The afternoon session brought expert testimony. Jennifer had found Dr. Hartley's colleagues from the 1980s and 90s. They testified about his brilliance, his dedication, his deliberate choice to transfer the building to Sylvia rather than Daniel. He didn't trust his son to continue the work, one elderly doctor testified. Daniel had already made it clear he valued profit over patience. Leonard wanted someone who cared about the medicine, not the money. Mr. Breslin tried to discredit them. These witnesses are all elderly. Their memories can't be trusted. Judge Winters cut him off. Their memories seem perfectly clear to me, and their testimony is consistent with the documented evidence. Unless you have something new to present, I'm ready to rule. The courtroom went silent. Judge Winters reviewed her notes for what felt like an eternity. This case is about a father who built something meaningful and a son who abandoned him. Dr. Hartley had every right to leave his property to someone he trusted. The evidence shows Ms. Martinez was that person. She, in turn, left the property to Ms. Torres with clear instructions about its use. She looked at Daniel Hartley. You claim your father was manipulated, but I see a man who made deliberate choices about his legacy. You ignored him in life. You don't get to control him in death. As for Ms. Torres, she paused, looking at Rachel. You've been dealt a hard hand. Homeless with disabled children. Most people would have crumbled. Instead, you accepted a gift and are using it as intended. That takes courage. Daniel Hartley's claim is denied. The property and trust remain with Ms. Torres. This court finds no evidence of fraud, manipulation, or undue influence. Case dismissed. The gavel came down. Daniel Hartley stormed out. Veronica followed, shooting Rachel a look of pure hatred. Jennifer hugged Rachel. We won. It's over. But as they left the courthouse, as media swarmed with questions and cameras flashed, Rachel knew it wasn't really over. Daniel would appeal. Veronica would find another angle. The threats would continue. The attention wouldn't fade. This was just the beginning of a longer fight. Still, for one moment, standing on the courthouse steps with the Colorado winter sun bright overhead, Rachel let herself feel victory. She'd fought. She'd won. She'd proven she deserved this chance. Now came the harder part, figuring out what to do with it. The appeal was filed exactly 14 days after the verdict. Daniel Hartley wasn't giving up. His lawyers submitted a thick brief claiming procedural errors, new evidence, grounds for reconsideration. Jennifer assured Rachel it was a Hail Mary attempt, destined to fail, but it meant more months of uncertainty. More legal fees draining the trust. More stress on the twins. Rachel made a decision that night. She couldn't control Daniel's obsession. Couldn't stop Veronica's resentment. Couldn't silence the media or the strangers who felt entitled to comment on her life. But she could control what she did with the building. With the trust. With the opportunity she'd been given. She could start actually using Dr. Hartley's legacy instead of just defending it. She called a meeting with Jennifer, Mr. Strand, and Dr. Rebecca Chun, a spinal surgeon from Denver Children's Hospital she'd contacted weeks earlier. They gathered in the Institute's conference room, now renovated with new furniture and working lights. I want to reopen the Institute, not as a full surgical center immediately, but as a treatment and therapy facility for children with spina bifida and other spinal conditions. Dr. Chin leaned forward, interested. That's ambitious. You'd need medical licenses, staff, insurance, equipment. We have equipment. Rachel had shown Dr. Chun the basement full of surgical supplies. Some of it's outdated, but the physical therapy equipment, the monitoring systems, the examination tools are all still viable. Dr. Chun had been shocked by the discovery. This is easily $2 million in equipment. All sealed, preserved. It's extraordinary. What would it take to get licensed? Months of applications. State medical board approval. Facility inspections. Liability insurance. Hiring qualified staff. Mr. Strand pulled out a calculator. You're looking at minimum $800,000 in startup costs. Maybe more. Plus ongoing operating expenses until you establish patient flow and insurance contracts. I have $134 million. Rachel's voice was steady. The trust was meant for this. Dr. Hartley wanted to help children with spinal conditions. That's exactly what we'll do. Jennifer nodded slowly. It's risky. If the appeal succeeds, which it won't, but if it did, you'd have invested significant funds into a project Daniel could claim. The appeal won't succeed. Rachel felt the certainty deep in her bones. Judge Winters was clear. The property and trust are mine. I'm not wasting more time being afraid. I'm moving forward. The work began in February. Dr. Chun helped Rachel navigate the medical licensing maze. They applied for designation as an outpatient treatment facility. Not surgical initially, but physical therapy, pain management, consultation, diagnostic services. Things that required less licensing complexity, but still served desperate families. Rachel hired carefully. A physical therapist who specialized in pediatric spinal conditions. 2 nurses with experience in spina bifida care. An office manager to handle insurance and scheduling. A social worker to help families navigate financial assistance. She paid them well, better than hospital salaries. Offered health insurance, retirement benefits, respect. The kind of employment that attracted people who cared about the work, not just the paycheck. The building transformed through March and April. The physical therapy room became a state-of-the-art treatment space. Parallel bars for walking practice. Exercise equipment scaled for children. Colorful murals on the walls showing mountain landscapes and animals. Examination rooms updated with modern equipment from the basement storage. Rachel kept the historical elements. The photographs of Dr. Hartley and the original staff. The plaque about healing and hope. The sense that this building had always been about helping people. The state inspectors came in May. Walked through every room. Checked every detail. Reviewed every document. The lead inspector was a stern woman in her 50s who seemed determined to find fault. This is a lot of fancy equipment for someone who was homeless 6 months ago. My aunt and Dr. Hartley left resources specifically for this purpose. Rachel had learned to keep her voice even, professional. The trust funding is all documented and legal. The inspector reviewed her clipboard. Your application says you plan to offer services on a sliding scale, including free care for families who can't afford treatment. That's not a sustainable business model. It's sustainable when you have adequate funding and a mission beyond profit. The inspection took 6 hours. When it ended, the lead inspector handed Rachel a folder. Preliminary approval. You'll need to pass a final inspection after you've been operational for 3 months. But I'll admit, this is impressive. Most facilities don't have this level of equipment or this much space dedicated to pediatric care. Thank you. The inspector paused at the door. My grandson has spina bifida. He's 4. We've been on waiting lists for therapy for 8 months. If you're really going to help families like ours, you'll be doing something important. Rachel felt tears threaten. Bring him in when we open. We'll get him started immediately. The institute opened on June 1st with a soft launch. No media announcement. No fanfare. Just quiet outreach to local pediatricians, disability advocates, hospital social workers. We're here. We can help. Families who can't afford care elsewhere are especially welcome. The first patient was a 9-year-old girl named Sophia. She had spina bifida similar to Marcus's case. Her family had been denied by insurance for the physical therapy she desperately needed. Her mother, Maria, broke down crying in Rachel's office. I've been fighting for 2 years to get her help. Every door closes. Every program has waiting lists or income requirements we barely miss. I don't know what else to do. You don't have to do anything else. Rachel handed her tissues. Sophia will receive therapy 3 times a week. No charge. Our therapist specializes in spina bifida. We'll work with her until she's progressing. Maria looked stunned. Why would you do this? Because I have twins with spina bifida. I know what it's like to watch your children in pain and be told you can't afford help. This institute exists so other families don't have to go through what we did. Word spread through the spina bifida community faster than any advertising could have achieved. By the end of June, the institute had 27 regular patients. Children from across Colorado. Families driving 2 and 3 hours because this was the only place offering affordable, specialized care. Rachel watched her twins improve alongside the other children. Marcus and Mia received the same therapy as every other patient. The physical therapist, Elena Vargas, worked with them 3 times a week. Exercises to strengthen core muscles. Stretching to maintain flexibility. Pain management techniques that didn't rely only on medication. For the first time in their lives, the twins weren't just surviving their condition. They were learning to manage it. 3 months in, Marcus walked 10 steps without his wheelchair. 10 steps that made him cry with joy and frustration when he couldn't do more. But 10 steps. Progress. Proof that his body could do more than he'd been told. Mia's pain episodes decreased from daily to twice a week. She smiled more, played more, started talking about things she wanted to do instead of things her body wouldn't let her do. Rachel documented everything, photographed the facility in operation, recorded patient testimonials, built a case for permanent licensing. When the final state inspection came in September, the evidence was undeniable. The institute was helping children who had nowhere else to turn. The approval came through in October. Rocky Mountain Spine Institute was officially licensed as a pediatric specialty treatment facility. Rachel stood in the lobby, holding the framed certificate, and allowed herself to cry. Not from stress this time, from accomplishment, from knowing that Dr. Hartley's dream was alive again. But success drew attention. The Denver Post ran a feature story in November. From homeless to healer, Mother opens Spine Institute for children. The article was positive, highlighting the families being helped, the equipment being used, Rachel's transformation from living in a van to running a medical facility. But it also mentioned the $134 million trust. Within days, new lawsuits appeared. A former business partner of Daniel Hartley claiming he was owed money from Dr. Hartley's estate. A medical equipment company saying the supplies in the basement had been purchased with their stolen credit. Both cases were frivolous. Both required legal responses that cost time and money. Jennifer handled them efficiently, but the harassment was wearing. Rachel, you need to understand something. People like Daniel Hartley don't give up because they lost in court. They give up when they realize continuing to fight costs more than it's worth. We need to make it expensive and embarrassing for him to keep attacking you. How? By succeeding so publicly and so obviously that his opposition looks petty. By helping so many people that attacking you becomes attacking sick children. By making the Institute so essential that trying to shut it down becomes political suicide. Rachel understood the strategy. She leaned into media attention she'd previously avoided, gave interviews about the Institute's mission, welcomed reporters to tour the facility, introduced them to families like Maria and Sophia, who shared their stories about being denied care elsewhere and finding hope at Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. The narrative shifted. Rachel wasn't a homeless opportunist who'd lucked into money. She was a mother who'd survived impossible circumstances and was using her resources to help others survive theirs. The human interest stories piled up. Local news, national morning shows, online features that went viral. One interview stood out. A reporter asked, "What would you say to people who claim you don't deserve this inheritance?" Rachel looked directly at the camera. "I'd say I didn't deserve to be homeless either. I didn't deserve to watch my children suffer without medical care because insurance companies decided their lives weren't worth the cost. None of the families we serve deserve the situations they're in. But deserve isn't about worth. It's about luck and timing and who believes in you when it matters most. My aunt believed in me. Dr. Hartley believed in his work. I'm just trying to honor both of those things." The clip played everywhere. Comment sections filled with support instead of the vitriol Rachel had grown accustomed to. Donations started arriving. Small amounts from people who wanted to support the mission. Larger amounts from charitable foundations. The Institute didn't need the money, but Rachel accepted it gratefully, using it to expand services. By December, a year after the court victory, the Institute had served 147 children. Some came weekly for therapy. Others came for consultations, getting second opinions when their doctors had given up. A few came for pain management when medication wasn't enough. Rachel hired more staff, added Saturday hours, partnered with Denver Children's Hospital to provide surgical consultations. Dr. Chun visited monthly, examining patients and recommending treatments. Some needed surgeries the Institute couldn't provide. Rachel used trust funds to pay for them at proper surgical centers, removing the financial barrier that had stopped families from getting help. The twins thrived. Marcus was walking regularly now, still using his wheelchair for long distances, but no longer completely dependent on it. Mia's pain was managed well enough that she missed school maybe once a month instead of once a week. They'd both grown taller, healthier, more confident. Rachel watched them play with other children at the Institute and felt something she'd almost forgotten. Peace. The belief that things would be okay. That the constant crisis mode she'd lived in for years was finally, genuinely over. Then came a phone call in late December. Jennifer's voice was tense. "We have a problem. Daniel Hartley filed an emergency motion claiming the Institute is operating beyond its license. He's alleging medical malpractice and demanding immediate shutdown pending investigation." That's insane. "We've had 0 complaints. We're fully licensed." "I know. It's harassment. But the medical board has to investigate any formal complaint. They're sending inspectors next week. If they find any violations, even minor ones, Daniel could use it to reopen the property case." Rachel felt the old fear return. The sense that just when things were working, someone would rip it away. What do? We prepare. Make sure every document is perfect. Every procedure is by the book. Every staff member is ready to answer questions. And we pray Daniel's desperation is obvious enough that the board sees through it. The inspection was scheduled for January 3rd. Rachel spent the holiday season ensuring everything was perfect. She reviewed every patient file, every treatment protocol, every billing record. The staff worked overtime organizing, documenting, preparing for scrutiny they didn't deserve. Marcus noticed his mother's stress. "Mama, are they going to close our clinic?" "No, baby. Some people are just trying to make trouble, but we haven't done anything wrong. Why do people want to hurt us?" "It's not about us, sweetheart. It's about money. Some people think money is more important than helping sick kids." That's sad. Yeah, Marcus. It is. The medical board sent 3 inspectors. They spent 2 full days examining everything. Patient files, medication logs, therapy protocols, equipment maintenance, staff credentials, insurance documentation, facility safety. They interviewed staff, talked to patients, observed therapy sessions. Rachel followed them, answering questions, providing documentation, trying not to show her desperation. On the second day, the lead inspector, Dr. Martin Reeves, asked to speak with Rachel privately. They sat in her office, the door closed. Dr. Reeves was in his 60s, gray-haired and serious. Miss Torres, I've reviewed your facility thoroughly. You're aware Mr. Hartley filed this complaint claiming medical malpractice and unlicensed practice? I'm aware. His claims are baseless, but I understand you have to investigate. We do, and I'll be frank with you. This is the most thoroughly documented, carefully operated facility I've inspected in 20 years on the medical board. Rachel's breath caught. What? Your protocols exceed state requirements. Your staff is exceptionally qualified. Your equipment is maintained beyond necessary standards. Your patient outcomes are remarkable. I've reviewed every case. Not one complication. Not one injury. Not one complaint from families. In fact, he smiled slightly. I've received 17 unsolicited letters from families praising your work, including one from my colleague whose grandson you've been treating. Rachel felt tears building. So we're not being shut down? There's no basis for shutdown. You're operating exactly within your license parameters. Mr. Hartley's complaint appears to be motivated by personal grievance rather than legitimate concern. Dr. Reeves leaned forward. Off the record, I've seen his previous attempts to claim this property. His father was a brilliant surgeon and a good man. His son is neither. You're doing what Leonard Hartley would have wanted. Don't let Daniel intimidate you into stopping. The formal report came 2 weeks later. No violations found. Facility exceeds standards for pediatric specialty care. Complaint dismissed. Recommend no further action. Jennifer filed the report with the appeals court handling Daniel's property case. Look at this, Your Honor. He's not seeking justice. He's harassing a woman who's helping sick children because he's bitter he didn't inherit his father's wealth. The appeal was denied in February. Final ruling. No further legal recourse. Daniel Hartley had lost completely. Rachel expected relief. Instead, she felt wary. Dangerous people didn't give up just because courts told them to. She increased security at the Institute. Cameras, better locks, an alarm system that rivaled the bank's. She varied her routine, never arriving or leaving at the same time. She kept the twins close, always supervised, never alone. Her paranoia felt justified when the fire started. It was 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. Rachel woke to the smoke alarm screaming. She grabbed the twins, still half asleep, and ran down the stairs from their apartment into the main building. Smoke was everywhere, thick and choking. The fire was in the therapy room. Flames consuming the equipment, the murals, everything they'd built. Rachel got the twins outside, called 911, watched firefighters arrive and battle the blaze. It took 2 hours to contain. The therapy room was destroyed. Smoke and water damage throughout the first floor. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. The fire marshal investigated. Found evidence of accelerant. Gasoline poured along the back wall, ignited with a timer. This was arson. Deliberate. Someone tried to burn down your facility. Do you have enemies? Rachel thought of Daniel Hartley, of Veronica, of anonymous threats and hateful comments. I have people who want this place gone. The police investigated. Security cameras had been disabled professionally. No clear suspect. Daniel Hartley had an alibi, traveling in California. Veronica was in Dallas. No evidence pointing to anyone specific. But the message was clear. Someone wanted Rachel to give up, to take the insurance money and walk away, to stop proving that Dr. Hartley's legacy mattered more than greed. Rachel stood in the destroyed therapy room the next morning, her twins beside her, and made her choice. We rebuild, better than before. We don't let them win. The families rallied. Maria, Sophia's mother, organized a fundraiser. Other families contributed what they could. Local businesses donated materials. Within a week, Contractors were clearing debris. Within 2 weeks, reconstruction began. The insurance covered most of it. The trust covered the rest. But more importantly, the community support proved something Rachel had forgotten during the legal battles and threats. Good people outnumbered the greedy ones. For every Daniel Hartley trying to destroy what she'd built, there were 10 families grateful for the help, 20 local businesses willing to support the mission, hundreds of people who believed the Institute mattered. The repairs took 3 months. During that time, Rachel partnered with a nearby church to continue therapy sessions in their community center. The Institute never actually stopped serving patients, just moved temporarily, adapted, kept going. Some needed surgeries the Institute couldn't provide. Rachel used trust funds to pay for them at proper surgical centers, removing the financial barrier that had stopped families from getting help. The twins thrived. Marcus was walking regularly now, still using his wheelchair for long distances, but no longer completely dependent on it. Mia's pain was managed well enough that she missed school maybe once a month instead of once a week. They'd both grown taller, healthier, more confident. Rachel watched them play with other children at the Institute and felt something she'd almost forgotten. Peace. The belief that things would be okay. That the constant crisis mode she'd lived in for years was finally, genuinely over. Then came a phone call in late December. Jennifer's voice was tense. "We have a problem. Daniel Hartley filed an emergency motion claiming the Institute is operating beyond its license. He's alleging medical malpractice and demanding immediate shutdown pending investigation." That's insane. We've had 0 complaints. We're fully licensed. I know. It's harassment. But the medical board has to investigate any formal complaint. They're sending inspectors next week. If they find any violations, even minor ones, Daniel could use it to reopen the property case. Rachel felt the old fear return. The sense that just when things were working, someone would rip it away. What do? We prepare. Make sure every document is perfect. Every procedure is by the book. Every staff member is ready to answer questions. And we pray Daniel's desperation is obvious enough that the board sees through it. The inspection was scheduled for January 3rd. Rachel spent the holiday season ensuring everything was perfect. She reviewed every patient file, every treatment protocol, every billing record. The staff worked overtime organizing, documenting, preparing for scrutiny they didn't deserve. Marcus noticed his mother's stress. "Mama, are they going to close our clinic?" "No, baby. Some people are just trying to make trouble, but we haven't done anything wrong. Why do people want to hurt us?" "It's not about us, sweetheart. It's about money. Some people think money is more important than helping sick kids." "That's sad." "Yeah, Marcus, it is." The medical board sent 3 inspectors. They spent 2 full days examining everything. Patient files, medication logs, therapy protocols, equipment maintenance, staff credentials, insurance documentation, facility safety. They interviewed staff, talked to patients, observed therapy sessions. Rachel followed them, answering questions, providing documentation, trying not to show her desperation. On the second day, the lead inspector, Dr. Martin Reeves, asked to speak with Rachel privately. They sat in her office, the door closed. Dr. Reeves was in his 60s, gray-haired and serious. "Miss Torres, I've reviewed your facility thoroughly. You're aware Mr. Hartley filed this complaint claiming medical malpractice and unlicensed practice?" "I'm aware. His claims are baseless, but I understand you have to investigate." "We do. And I'll be frank with you. This is the most thoroughly documented, carefully operated facility I've inspected in 20 years on the medical board." Rachel's breath caught. "What?" "Your protocols exceed state requirements. Your staff is exceptionally qualified. Your equipment is maintained beyond necessary standards. Your patient outcomes are remarkable. I've reviewed every case. Not one complication, not one injury, not one complaint from families. In fact," he smiled slightly, "I've received 17 unsolicited letters from families praising your work, including one from my colleague whose grandson you've been treating." Rachel felt tears building. "So we're not being shut down?" "There's no basis for shutdown. You're operating exactly within your license parameters. Mr. Hartley's complaint appears to be motivated by personal grievance rather than legitimate concern. Dr. Reeves leaned forward. Off the record, I've seen his previous attempts to claim this property. His father was a brilliant surgeon and a good man. His son is neither. You're doing what Leonard Hartley would have wanted. Don't let Daniel intimidate you into stopping. The formal report came 2 weeks later. No violations found. Facility exceeds standards for pediatric specialty care. Complaint dismissed. Recommend no further action. Jennifer filed the report with the appeals court handling Daniel's property case. Look at this, Your Honor. He's not seeking justice. He's harassing a woman who's helping sick children because he's bitter he didn't inherit his father's wealth. The appeal was denied in February. Final ruling. No further legal recourse. Daniel Hartley had lost completely. Rachel expected relief. Instead, she felt wary. Dangerous people didn't give up just because courts told them to. She increased security at the Institute. Cameras, better locks, an alarm system that rivaled the bank's. She varied her routine, never arriving or leaving at the same time. She kept the twins close, always supervised, never alone. Her paranoia felt justified when the fire started. It was 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. Rachel woke to the smoke alarm screaming. She grabbed the twins, still half asleep, and ran down the stairs from their apartment into the main building. Smoke was everywhere, thick and choking. The fire was in the therapy room. Flames consuming the equipment, the murals, everything they'd built. Rachel got the twins outside, called 911, watched firefighters arrive and battle the blaze. It took 2 hours to contain. The therapy room was destroyed. Smoke and water damage throughout the first floor. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. The fire marshal investigated. Found evidence of accelerant. Gasoline poured along the back wall, ignited with a timer. This was arson. Deliberate. Someone tried to burn down your facility. Do you have enemies? Rachel thought of Daniel Hartley, of Veronica, of anonymous threats and hateful comments. I have people who want this place gone. The police investigated. Security cameras had been disabled professionally. No clear suspect. Daniel Hartley had an alibi, traveling in California. Veronica was in Dallas. No evidence pointing to anyone specific. But the message was clear. Someone wanted Rachel to give up, to take the insurance money and walk away, to stop proving that Dr. Hartley's legacy mattered more than greed. Rachel stood in the destroyed therapy room the next morning, her twins beside her, and made her choice. We rebuild, better than before. We don't let them win. The families rallied. Maria, Sophia's mother, organized a fundraiser. Other families contributed what they could. Local businesses donated materials. Within a week, contractors were clearing debris. Within 2 weeks, reconstruction began. The insurance covered most of it. The trust covered the rest. But more importantly, the community support proved something Rachel had forgotten during the legal battles and threats. Good people outnumbered the greedy ones. For every Daniel Hartley trying to destroy what she'd built, there were 10 families grateful for the help. 20 local businesses willing to support the mission. Hundreds of people who believed the Institute mattered. The repairs took 3 months. During that time, Rachel partnered with a nearby church to continue therapy sessions in their community center. The Institute never actually stopped serving patients. Just moved temporarily. Adapted. Kept going. Recovery took weeks, but the boy who'd never walked without excruciating pain took his first pain-free steps in June. Marcus and Mia visited him during recovery, sat with him, told him stories about their own progress, about how hard rehabilitation was, but how worth it, about how their lives had changed since their mother inherited this place. I was scared I'd always hurt, Marcus told Diego. But Mama said bodies can heal if we give them help. And she was right. Not all the way healed. I still have hard days. But it's better. So much better. Watching her children comfort another child going through what they'd survived, Rachel felt something click into place. This was why she'd been given the inheritance. Not just for the money, not just for the building, but for the understanding. The lived experience that let her truly comprehend what families needed and deliver it with empathy rather than pity. On the Institute's 3rd anniversary, June 1st, Rachel organized a celebration, not just for staff and current patients, but for everyone who'd been helped. 300 former and current patients, over 500 family members, staff, volunteers, donors. The parking lot overflowed. They had to close the street. It looked like a festival. Food trucks, bouncy houses for the kids, a band playing on a makeshift stage. Rachel stood on that stage in the afternoon and looked at the crowd. Saw Maria and Sophia, Diego and his family, the inspector's grandson who'd been one of the first patients, dozens of children who'd found healing here. 3 years ago, I stood in a condemned building with $17 and 2 children who desperately needed help I couldn't afford. People said this place was worthless, that I was too broken to fix it, that struggling mothers didn't deserve chances. Her voice caught. They were wrong. Not because I'm special, but because someone believed in me enough to give me a chance. My Aunt Sylvia, Dr. Hartley, the people who saw potential in rubble and built something beautiful. This institute has served over 400 children, provided over 12,000 therapy sessions, performed 37 life-changing surgeries. We've kept families together who would have been bankrupted by medical bills. We've given children the chance to walk, to play, to live without constant pain. She paused, looking at her own twins. And we've proven that sometimes the people everyone discounts are exactly the ones who should be trusted with something important. Because we remember what it's like to be discounted. We remember what it means to need help and be told we don't deserve it. Marcus and Mia joined her on stage, both walking independently now, still using wheelchairs for long distances, but mobile and strong. Rachel put her arms around them. My children will always have some challenges from Spina Bifida, but they're thriving. And every child here deserves the same chance. That's what this institute is. A chance. The applause was thunderous. People cheering not just for Rachel, but for what the institute represented. Proof that broken things could be repaired. That discarded buildings could become sanctuaries. That mothers everyone had given up on could become healers. As the celebration continued, Rachel spotted a figure standing apart from the crowd. Older man, alone, watching from the parking lot's edge. She walked over slowly, recognizing him only as she got close. Daniel Hartley. Her first instinct was anger. This man had spent 3 years trying to destroy everything she'd built, had filed lawsuit after lawsuit, maybe even paid someone to burn the therapy room. But he looked diminished now, defeated, not threatening, just old and tired. Mr. Hartley. Her voice was neutral. Miss Torres. He couldn't meet her eyes. I came to see what you did with my father's building. You're welcome to tour the facility. She meant it. Despite everything, she didn't want to prevent him from seeing his father's legacy. He followed her inside. Rachel showed him the therapy room, restored and full of children working with therapists. The examination rooms with their modern equipment. The surgical suites that would have made Dr. Hartley proud. The walls of photographs showing the original institute alongside today's patients. This is what your father wanted. Rachel's voice was gentle. This is what he spent his life building. A place where children could heal. Daniel stopped at a photograph of his father from 1980. Dr. Hartley in his surgical scrubs, smiling, surrounded by staff. I didn't understand him. Daniel's voice was barely audible. He cared more about this place than he cared about me. I was angry about that my whole life. Maybe he cared about this place because you left. Rachel wasn't trying to be cruel, just honest. Parents don't stop loving their children, but they do give up on them when they're repeatedly abandoned. Your father didn't choose this institute over you. He chose it after you chose not to be here. Daniel flinched. I could have stopped you. I could have appealed again. Dragged this out for another decade. Why didn't you? What would be the point? You've helped hundreds of children. You're using the money exactly like my father wanted. Continuing his work. I was fighting for money I thought I deserved. You were fighting for sick kids. Daniel finally looked at her. The judges saw that. The medical board saw that. Even I see it now. Rachel waited. Daniel pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a statement releasing all future claims to the property and the trust. I'm giving up. Not because I think you won fairly, but because continuing to fight would make me the villain of a story where you're the hero. And I'm tired of being the villain. She took the envelope but didn't open it. Thank you. I'm sorry about your father. about the relationship you didn't have. But I'm not sorry. I'm using his legacy to help children. That's what he wanted. I know. That's what makes it worse. He was right about me, about who I was, who I still am. But maybe, Daniel hesitated, maybe seeing this place succeed is enough. Knowing my father's work mattered, that someone finished what he started. You could help, you know. Rachel surprised herself saying it. The Institute could always use more resources. If you want to donate, to volunteer, to be part of this instead of fighting it. That would honor your father more than any lawsuit. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. You're more generous than I deserve. Probably. But Dr. Hartley believed in second chances. So do I. He left without promising anything. But 2 weeks later, a check arrived. $100,000 from Daniel Hartley to Rocky Mountain Spine Institute. The memo line read, "In memory of my father, who is always right." Rachel deposited it, added Daniel's name to the donor wall, sent him a thank you note. He never responded, but he never caused trouble again either. Sometimes that was enough. The fourth year brought new challenges. Staffing shortages as demand outpaced supply of qualified therapists. Insurance companies fighting coverage despite the Institute's success. State budget cuts, threatening programs that referred patients. But none of it felt insurmountable. Rachel had been through worse, had survived impossible circumstances. These were problems that could be solved with effort and resources she now had. She hired aggressively, offering salaries and benefits that attracted top talent. She worked with lawyers to fight insurance denials. She lobbied state legislators, bringing families to share their stories. Slowly, incrementally, things improved. Marcus turned 12, had his first crush on a girl in his class. Tried out for the school play and got a small part. Walked to school most days, using his wheelchair only when pain flared. He still had challenges, still had surgery scheduled for the future. But his life wasn't defined by his disability anymore. Mia turned 12, joined the art club, won a regional competition for a painting of mountains at sunset, talked about becoming a doctor someday, or maybe an artist, or maybe both because why not? She still had pain episodes, still needed careful monitoring, but she was thriving. Rachel watched her children grow and felt the weight of everything they'd survived. The nights in the van, the emergency rooms that turned them away, the fear that she'd never be able to give them the care they deserved. All of that had led here, to health, to stability, to hope. One evening in December, Rachel returned to the small apartment above the Institute. The twins were at friends' houses. She had the place to herself. She climbed to the roof through an access hatch, sat on the cold metal, and looked at the stars. 5 years. 5 years since she'd opened that letter from Patricia Finch. Since she'd driven to Colorado with $17 and 2 children who desperately needed help. Since she'd stood in a condemned building and decided to take a chance. The building below her hummed with life now. Night security making rounds. The overnight medical monitor checking on a post-surgical patient. The building that had been rubble was now salvation for hundreds of families. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Strand. Year-end financial report attached. Trust value now $167 million. Annual royalties $14 million. You could expand to 10 more locations with current resources. Want to discuss? Rachel smiled. Not tonight. But soon. She responded, then put the phone away. She thought about Aunt Sylvia, about the letter that had said there was something here worth more than money. Sylvia had been right. The money was staggering, life-changing, impossible. But the real treasure was the opportunity. The chance to take her pain and turn it into purpose. To use her suffering as a compass pointing toward healing. To prove that broken mothers with disabled children weren't burdens on society, but people with unique insights into what healing required. A shooting star streaked across the sky. Rachel made a wish, then laughed at herself for the childishness of it. But the wish was simple. More time, more healing, more children helped, more families saved from the desperation she'd survived. She climbed back down, walked through the Institute's halls. The therapy room quiet but ready for tomorrow's sessions. The examination room stocked and clean. The surgical suites that would host 2 procedures next week. Dr. Hartley's photographs watching over everything. his legacy alive in every child who found help here. Rachel stopped at the vault hidden beneath the surgical room. She hadn't been back inside since that first discovery. The patents and documents were all digitized now, stored securely, managed by Mr. Strand. But the physical vault remained, a reminder of where it started. She opened it, descended the stairs, stood in the small chamber surrounded by the file cabinets that had held Dr. Hartley's life work. There was something she'd never removed. A small box on the top shelf. She pulled it down, opened it. Inside was a letter addressed simply to whoever finds this. Rachel unfolded the yellowed paper. Dr. Hartley's handwriting. If you're reading this, you've found the vault. You've discovered what I spent 40 years building. The money will be tempting. The patents are worth millions. You could sell everything. Walk away wealthy. Live comfortably for the rest of your life. But I'm asking you not to. I'm asking you to see past the money to what it represents. Every patent in these files came from a child in pain. Every innovation was driven by the need to help one more patient, one more family, one more person told there was nothing more medicine could do. The money was never the goal. It was the tool, the means to continue the work, to help more children, to prove that every spine, no matter how broken, deserves the chance to be strong. Sylvia promised me she'd find someone who understood this, someone who knew what it meant to fight for the overlooked, to protect the vulnerable, to choose healing over profit. I hope she found you. I hope you're using this to help people. That's all I ever wanted, to make pain a little more bearable, to give children a chance at lives their bodies tried to deny them. If you've done that, then this vault held the greatest treasure of all, purpose. Rachel folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the box. Dr. Hartley had been right. The money was extraordinary, but the purpose was priceless. She climbed back upstairs, locked the vault, returned to her apartment. That night, she dreamed of the van, of sleeping in parking lots with her children, of the fear and desperation that had defined years of her life. But in the dream, she was watching herself from a distance, seeing that younger Rachel fighting so hard. And she wanted to tell her, it's going to be okay. You're going to survive this. You're going to help hundreds of children survive it too. Just keep going. Just hold on a little longer. She woke to sunlight and her phone ringing. Marcus's voice excited. Mama, I forgot to tell you yesterday. My teacher said I can help tutor younger kids who struggle with math. Because I'm really good at it now that I don't miss so much school. That's wonderful, baby. I'm so proud of you. Can I start next week? Of course you can. Marcus hung up. Rachel lay in bed for a moment, feeling gratitude so overwhelming it hurt. Her children were thriving. The Institute was saving lives. She had a home, security, purpose. Everything she'd been denied for so long was now hers to protect and share. The years continued. Year 5, Year 6, Year 7. Each one brought growth. More locations opened. Denver, Fort Collins, Pueblo. Each one modeled on the original. Each one offering the same sliding scale care. The same commitment to helping families regardless of ability to pay. By Year 7, the Rocky Mountain Spine Institute Network served over 1,500 children annually, performed 200 surgeries, provided over 30,000 therapy sessions, kept families together who would have been destroyed by medical debt. The trust grew to $210 million, generated enough income to fund operations indefinitely. Rachel established an endowment, ensuring the work would continue long after she was gone. Set up succession plans. Train leaders who share the mission. Built something that would outlast her. Marcus graduated high school, applied to college, got accepted to 3 universities, chose one with a strong disability services program and a pre-med track. I want to be a doctor, Mama. Like Dr. Chun. I want to help kids like me. Mia graduated high school, applied to art school, got accepted with a full scholarship. But I'm also going to minor in nonprofit management. Because someday, I want to run an institute like yours. Help kids while creating art that makes hospitals less scary. Both children had grown into young adults who understood suffering and wanted to reduce it for others. Rachel couldn't have been prouder. On her 45th birthday, Rachel stood at the podium during the Institute's 10th anniversary celebration. 10 years since she'd inherited a condemned building. 10 years since she'd had $17 and no idea how she'd feed her children. Behind her are photographs. The original condemned institute. Rachel and the twins on their first day. The building renovated. Children in therapy. Surgical suites in operation. Families celebrating victories. Marcus and Mia, grown now, healthy and strong. 10 years ago, I was homeless. People said I didn't deserve help. I made bad choices. That disabled children were a burden. Her voice carried across the crowd of over 1,000 people. Patients, families, staff, donors. I'm standing here today to tell every person in a similar situation. You deserve help. Your children deserve care. Disability is not a burden. It's a challenge. And challenges can be overcome with the right resources and support. This institute exists because 2 people believed in me when everyone else had given up. My Aunt Sylvia, Dr. Leonard Hartley. They saw past my homelessness to my potential, past my struggles to my strength. They gave me a chance. And I've spent 10 years trying to give that same chance to every family who walks through our doors. We've helped 2,200 children, changed lives one spine at a time. But more importantly, we've proven something. That struggling people aren't liabilities. We're assets. We understand what help looks like because we needed it. We know how to give with dignity because we remember how it felt to receive with shame. She looked at her twins in the audience. I fought for my children because they deserve to live without pain. But in fighting for them, I learned to fight for everyone else's children too. That's what this building taught me. That healing isn't selfish. It's expansive. That when you help one person, you learn how to help thousands. Dr. Hartley understood that. He spent 40 years proving it. Now we're continuing his work. 2,300 children helped. Another 500 on the waiting list. Plans to open 3 more locations next year. This is what his legacy looks like. Not money. Not patents. Children walking. Families whole. Hope restored. The crowd rose in standing ovation. Rachel stepped down from the podium and walked through the institute one more time. The walls covered in children's art. The therapy room full of equipment and laughter. The surgical suites where lives were literally changed. The photographs of Dr. Hartley and Aunt Sylvia watching over everything. She stepped outside. The Colorado sunset was painting the mountains in shades of purple and gold. The same mountains she'd seen that first day when the building was condemned and she had no idea what would come next. Marcus and Mia joined her, both in wheelchairs tonight because it had been a long day and pain was still part of their lives. But both smiling, both whole, both proof that broken didn't mean finished. Mama, Marcus said quietly, do you ever think about how different things would be if Aunt Sylvia hadn't left you this place? Every single day, Rachel pulled them close, but not with regret, with gratitude. She saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. Believed I could do more than survive, that I could help others survive too. Did you know? Mia asked. Did you know when you first got here that it would become this? No, baby. I thought I was just getting shelter. I had no idea I was getting purpose. They stood together watching the mountains, and Rachel felt the weight of everything that had brought them here lift just slightly. The homelessness, the medical bills, the courts, the threats, the fire. All of it had led to this moment. To proof that sometimes the greatest treasures weren't found in vaults. They were built from rubble, created from desperation, forged from the decision to keep fighting even when everything said to give up. Rocky Mountain Spine Institute stood behind her. Solid, permanent, real, a monument to persistence, to the belief that broken things could be repaired, that overlooked people could become healers, that the right gift given to the right person at the right time could change not just one life, but thousands. Rachel smiled, thought about Aunt Sylvia's letter. There's something here worth more than money. She'd been right. The treasure was never the $134 million. It was a chance to prove that mothers who slept in cars could run medical facilities, that disabled children could thrive with proper support, that people written off by society could become its most important protectors. That was the real inheritance, and it was worth more than any amount of money could ever be. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.